first thing I do want to bring up is TNA Mecca dropped a bomb on the internet with an article titled, "Can TNA Survive Without Hulk Hogan and Sting?" As the rumor mill is so electrified to point out, basically Hulk Hogan and Sting, their contracts are running up at TNA. So the question I want to kick to, let's start it with Lee. Let's do Lee first. Lee, what do you think? I mean, you're right over there at WrestlingNewsSource.com. Do you really think that TNA could survive without Hulk Hogan and Sting?
I think they could. Just if they're going to be successful or not. It's the other kind of side of the equation. I think they could easily survive without Hogan or Sting. Sting's kind of, Sting wouldn't really affect much. I think it's more Hulk Hogan, to be honest with you, that'd affect more than anything. Hulk Hogan clearly has a massive impact backstage. There's certain restrictions, obviously, that he has, but I think it could easily survive. I do just wonder whether... I wonder what would happen, though, if audiences would go higher because Hulk Hogan's out of it and it's now a fresher product, or people would go away because Hulk Hogan is now gone. So you can argue either way, but I honestly think they would be able to survive, and I also think they'd probably thrive off it as well, to be honest with you. They'd probably be a little more creative, if dare I say it. I know it's not Hulk Hogan's job, that, but it's just... No, I think they could survive, and I think they could... to be honest, I think they could build on it if Hogan did.
Okay, Rob, what do you think? I mean, Lee basically dismisses the idea that TNA needs Sting, but that Hulk Hogan loss would be kind of a hit, but in a good way. Do you agree? Do you think that you can dismiss Sting out of this one entirely, and that Hulk Hogan's the one you should focus on?
To an extent. Hogan, you can definitely afford to get rid of. I mean, TNA was doing a lot of stuff right before Hogan came in. You had the six-sided ring. You had unique match types that you never saw anywhere else, like the Steel Asylum, Ultimate X. You had all of these really cool match divisions. You had a really strong women's division. You had a really strong X division or cruiserweight division, whatever you want to call it. You had a lot of stuff that a lot of wrestling companies shy away from that was being put on display here that TNA was really building their product off of. Sting, right now, the biggest way he hurts TNA is the fact that you've got all of these rumors circulating about friction between him and TNA management. If fans get the impression that TNA screwed Sting over, it will hurt TNA a little bit because Sting has been such an icon and legend in the business. But even with his loss, TNA could survive it. TNA has really gotten all that they can out of Sting. They don't really need Sting to push their product anymore. They have their own talent. They have talent that they can market, that are names, and that they can build off of. So it wouldn't be the end of the world for TNA if they couldn't re-sign these guys. In a lot of ways, there could be a lot of good that comes out of it and free up some money for TNA.
Okay. Joe, what do you think? I mean, the idea that, we're not hearing much in the way of Hulk Hogan. They lost Hulk Hogan. What do you think? Do you think it'd be a great thing or a terrible thing?
Since Rob was just talking about Sting, I'll start with Sting. They don't need Sting anymore. Sting is pretty much a foregone conclusion to go. Once they inducted him into the Hall of Fame, you pretty much knew they were done with him because he's been champion. We don't want to keep seeing him as champion. He's got nothing more to offer to help build TNA up. Hogan, on the other hand, it's Hogan. The only thing you've got there is, hey, we've got Hulk Hogan.
The only thing you've got in Hogan is a great drinking game. Take a shot every time he says brother.
Well, it's not like we're going to be able to see how many times he hits on his daughter anymore because, she's gone.
Yeah, right.
But
it still has some value, though.
He's got name recognition. But what do you do with him? I don't think you need to him on TV.
But you're only looking at it from one side of the view, though, aren't you? Like, you don't need him on TV, but what he does backstage is likely where.
I don't know. I'm still haunted by the fact there was an article about Zach Gowen recently, and he talked about how the first time he met Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan was naked coming out of the shower, And that still haunts me when you're bringing up Hulk Hogan, just the thought of that. So
God. I'm going to have nightmares tonight.
Let me tell you about it. But I think
Hogan's hung like a horse, though, isn't he?
I don't know.
Hogan?
I bet he will be. I bet he is.
Ask Brooke. But if you... But I get he's got some experience. You know, he can relate stuff to the talent backstage. You know, he can pass on his knowledge. But a lot of times, man, from everything we've heard, and I know a lot of it's rumors or hearsay, 4 or 5 times down the line, but do we really want to learn from him anymore?
Yeah.
Has the business not changed enough?
Maybe. Yeah. Hold on, I do want to learn from him. If he can still pull someone like Brooke Hogan at his age, then fucking too right. I want to learn from him. Yeah. Well, it's not like he's fucking right.
Well done, Lee. Well done.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Gar, what do you think? Not about Hogan pulling his daughter, but
I want to be as optimistic as you guys are that TNA could survive. I mean, they have a lot of talent that we see. Obviously, we like TNA not because of Hulk Hogan's presence, but because of everything else that they've got going on. But you take a look at how they promote shows. Hulk Hogan is like top billing. He is on every single piece of artwork that they put out, all the posters to promote upcoming shows, especially now that they're on the road. People still come to see Hulk Hogan, despite him not really being used in a way that is good for the overall story. The problem is that he is your star.
So what do we?
And despite that, Garvin, I mean, you make a good point, but despite them using Hogan on every piece of material they have, they're still not getting bigger audiences than they did when they went out on the road before Hogan joined.
I mean, if you want to advertise Hogan, let's put him in carbonite and stick him on the stage.
Yeah. Hang on there.
And just leave it.
Judas Coltrane in the chat brought up a really good point, and that is the funding. Might, we always talk about the budget. The funding might actually be cut down a whole lot with Hogan. Think about how many advertisers might be advertising on TNA just because they know it's Hulk Hogan. Like, they don't know much about wrestling, but they know the name Hulk Hogan. They know it draws. So would the advertising dry up? Would the ticket rates hurt? I mean, there is that aspect of it.
There is that aspect.
Well, let me finish my point.
Go ahead, Garvin. Sorry to cut you off, man.
You take away Hulk Hogan, and that is your main star. You take away Sting, that's your other big name. Look at the rest of the roster as far as big names in the business who are probably going to be leaving the business in the next 2 to 3 years. Jeff Hardy, Kurt Angle. You take away all of those veterans, what else do you have? Honestly, that is a household name that will attract people. You are hoping that if they get rid of a guy like Hogan and Sting, that people are still going to flock to TNA because of it, but they're not. TNA has not done a good enough job to build stars where it makes sense to get rid of a big name like Hulk Hogan and Sting and Jeff Hardy and Kurt Angle. We would love to see those guys gone, but honestly, who do you have left? Especially because, just look, Gutcheck, what has Gutcheck done? Nothing. What has OVW done? Nothing. They are not doing the things that WWE is doing, on the other hand, with NXT, reaching out to ROH to bring up big stars from there and putting them in a position to be successful. You don't have that in TNA. So can they survive? I hope to God, because it's going to happen. They're going to lose Hogan and Sting because they can't afford Hogan anymore. But it's going to hurt them. I hope I'm as optimistic as you guys are, but I hope we all agree that this is going to hurt them.
Okay, what about the backstage brain drain aspect of it? Because my point of view of looking at it is the actual locker room. You lose Hogan, you lose Sting, you lose all these veterans, that a lot of these people who are in professional wrestling, they're in it because of those people. How many people backstage, like Austin Aries, that went, I want to be a professional wrestler because of Hulk Hogan, and now I can go work at the same company as him, and I can learn from everything that he has? How much of a draw does TNA lose talent-wise when they lose those veterans like Kurt Angle, like Jeff Hardy, like these guys that defined an era?
Yeah, that's why you need to. That's exactly Gar's point, and I'm fully with him on that. Like, you need to. That's where the billing the stars aspect comes into it, as such, because he's on the money. He's on the money when he says that. When Kurt Angle Jeff Hardy leave, you've only got a limited amount of things you can do. And if they don't have that name like WWE are doing currently with Daniel Bryan, building him into that role, if you don't have that guy, what the hell are we going to come and watch for? Of course you're going to get some wrestling guys who are going to watch whatever, but at the same time.
Yeah, and I mean, we all agree Austin Aries is great. That's a guy that can go and lead the company to the future. Same thing for how they're building a guy like Magnus. That's a great move, but they're just not doing it enough, and they're not securing those guys in a way that the fans can believe that overall. I mean, that's your future of your company. I don't know. It just doesn't seem that they are worried about a year down the road. They're just worried about right now.
The problem also, I suppose, on the other side of that is that at the minute they are struggling. In my opinion, they are struggling. TV, finances, everything, in every way, they are struggling a little bit at the minute. So it kind of almost makes sense to focus at the minute about what's going on. I know long-term wise, what we're talking about here, but at the minute, it does seem like they need to get through the next couple of months focusing on what's going on there.
That's definitely what they need to do. And with regards to talent, you might actually you might lose some. You are going to lose some draw, but at the other ways, it's going to be an attractive draw too, because as a wrestler, you don't have to worry about your development being delayed because a veteran wants more time in the spotlight. So there's a lot of opportunity. Anybody can come in to TNA and make a name for themselves really quickly. And TNA has been successful without the big names before. People like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, now you've got Austin Aries and some of the other people. I mean, I was brought in to be a TNA fan because a couple of my friends said, hey, you got to check out TNA and see what this guy AJ Styles can do. I had no fucking idea who AJ Styles was when I sat down and started watching TNA. And by the end of my first show, I was like, okay, this guy really, I was blown away. And there are quite a few TNA fans who got brought in the same way by other TNA fans who had seen the product. And once TNA gets back to that, you might be able to build a little bit of a fan base. Is it going to be a huge build? No. But TNA can, if they make the proper moves, they can salvage a lot of stuff.
Okay, excellent point there, Rob. And I do want to TNA Mecca for posting this, and we posted it and reposted on our blog. It was a fantastic article, so if you want to read about it, definitely go check it out on TNAMecca.com.